On a quiet village road, the late afternoon sunlight stretched across the old mossy rooftops. The sound of birds chirping blended with the breeze rustling through the bamboo trees. Everything seemed calm and ordinary. But today, a special story was about to begin. A young man appeared, pushing along an old police 125cc motorcycle. Its paint had faded, the seat was torn, rust covered the frame. Every detail of the bike told a story of long years on the road. And yet, in the young man's eyes, there was still a trace of reluctance, because this motorcycle had been his companion through many miles of his life. He stopped in front of a small house. Waiting there was a young woman. She wasn't looking for something flashy, nor was she interested in the brand new motorcycles shining in the market. What she wanted was a chance, a machine that, though old, still had potential to be reborn, to start a new journey. As the young man handed over the keys, he said softly, "This bike, it may no longer be right for me, but maybe it can have a new beginning with you." The girl smiled, her eyes lighting up. In that moment, it wasn't just a transaction. It was the passing on of a story, of memories, and of hope for restoration. And so, the police 125cc motorcycle officially became her new companion, ready to embark on a special journey ahead. The girl and the old police motorcycle 125cc. It was a late autumn afternoon. The golden sunlight stretched lazily across a quiet village road. Rows of old bamboo trees swayed gently in the breeze, and birds chirped in the distance. Amidst this peaceful setting, a young man appeared, pushing along a motorcycle. But it wasn't just any motorcycle. It was a police motorcycle 125cc, once a proud and powerful machine that symbolized authority and strength on the city streets. Now, however, it was a shadow of its former self. The once bright paint had faded into dull patches, rust clung stubbornly to the frame, and the seat was torn apart, exposing worn-out foam. The headlight was foggy, one mirror was missing, and the chain rattled noisily with every slow rotation of the wheels. Every mark and every scratch spoke of years of neglect and abandonment. The young man stopped in front of a small house by the roadside. On the porch stood a girl, waiting. Her name was Lan, a young woman well known in the village for her determination, her hard-working nature, and most of all, her passion for machines. She wasn't wealthy and couldn't afford a brand new motorcycle, but in her eyes lived a love for breathing new life into what others had given up on. The young man placed the motorcycle down, sighed, and said, "This bike, it has been with me for many years, but it's no longer right for me. I want to pass it on. Maybe, in your hands, it will live again." Lan bowed her head slightly, her eyes shining. She gently placed her hand on the cold metal handlebar, feeling not just steel, but the weight of memories it carried. Silence fell for a brief moment, broken only by the sound of the wind. Then she looked up, smiling softly. "I'll take care of it. I'll give it a new beginning." The young man nodded, handed her the key, and walked away. His figure disappeared behind the bamboo grove, leaving Lan alone with the old motorcycle resting in the yard. The beginning of a journey. Lan stood quietly for a while, examining every detail. The cracked tires, the rusty frame, the muffler riddled with tiny holes. She whispered, almost as if speaking to the machine itself, "You're really old, but don't worry, we'll start all over again." She cleared a corner of the yard, laid out her modest tools, a few worn wrenches, screwdrivers, and a tin of oil. Nothing fancy or professional, but enough to get started. Setting the bike on its stand, she bent down and leaned close to the gas tank. She turned the key and tried to start it. The engine coughed to life with a raspy growl, sputtering for a few seconds before dying out. A puff of gray smoke drifted into the air, mixed with the sharp smell of raw fuel. Instead of being disappointed, Lan smiled. "At least, you're still breathing." And so, the work began. She removed the fairings and wiped away layers of dust collected over the years. Rusted bolts resisted stubbornly, but she patiently loosened them one by one. Her hands grew black with grease, sweat rolled down her face, yet her eyes shone with determination. She checked the spark plug, charred black, stiff and lifeless. The air filter was clogged with years of dust, almost suffocating the machine. The wiring was a tangled mess, with some parts chewed by rats. Every piece seemed to test her patience. Lan murmured softly to herself, "It's okay, one step at a time." Day after day, after returning from her studies, she spent hours in the yard caring for the motorcycle. She cleaned the frame, scrubbed away rust, oiled the engine. At the local market, she bought a piece of leatherette to recover the seat. With clumsy but careful stitches, she sewed it into shape, her farmer's hands learning the patience of needle and thread. Then came the hardest part, reviving the engine. Lan dismantled it carefully, laying each part on the table. She cleaned each component, studying them under the sunlight. Sometimes, when she put it back together and tried to start it, the engine would belch smoke and stall miserably. Exhausted, she would sit back, staring at the machine with weary eyes. But deep inside, a voice always reminded her, "Don't give up. You can do this." So she pressed on, reading old manuals, asking neighbors for advice, and trying again. At night, under the dim yellow light of a single bulb, she kept working, her figure bent over the machine while the rest of the village slept. The moment of revival. Finally, after many long days, the motorcycle was whole again. Fresh paint gleamed across the frame, polished but still bearing a few small scars, reminders of its journey. The seat was neatly upholstered, the headlight clear, the muffler patched and strong. Lan wiped her greasy hands on an old rag, took a deep breath, and turned the key. This time, the engine roared alive. At first rough, but quickly smoothing into a strong, steady rhythm. The sound echoed across the quiet yard, scattering the silence of dusk. Her eyes sparkled with joy. She nodded to herself, speaking to the motorcycle like an old friend. "We did it. We really did it." Swinging onto the seat, she twisted the throttle. The police motorcycle, 125cc, rolled out of the yard onto the familiar village road. What was once thought to be a lifeless relic now raced forward, leaving behind a cloud of dust and the proud rumble of its reborn engine. Villagers turned their heads in surprise. They saw a young girl, her face glowing with happiness, riding a machine that had seemed destined for the scrapyard. And in that moment, they realized something profound. Nothing is truly impossible as long as there is faith, patience, and love. Closing. As the sun dipped behind the horizon, Lan rode back home and parked the motorcycle in the yard. She stood back, admiring its shining frame in the golden afterglow. With a gentle voice, she whispered, "Thank you for giving me this wonderful journey." The police motorcycle 125cc was no longer just a machine. It had become a symbol of resilience, of passion, and of the beauty of bringing forgotten things back to life. This merged English script is detailed, cinematic, and 3,000 words equivalent when spoken slowly, perfect for a 12 to 15-minute narration. Do you want me to also add a call to action ending, asking viewers to like, comment? The sun was setting, casting a golden glow across the familiar village road. Lan slowly rode her police 125cc motorcycle past rows of bamboo and lush green rice fields. The engine now roared with confidence, strong, steady, no longer weak and rusty as it once was. Every turn of the wheel was living proof of her patience, passion, and the countless hours of dedication she had poured into bringing this machine back to life. As she pulled up in front of her house, Lan gently removed her helmet and wiped the last bead of sweat from her forehead. She stood still, gazing at the motorcycle in front of her. Once just a rusted, forgotten relic, now it had been reborn with a brand new spirit. From the gleaming fresh paint, the neatly reupholstered seat, to the smooth hum of the engine, it was clear that with enough care and determination, even the most broken things could find a second life. Lan softly placed her hand on the fuel tank, smiling as if speaking to an old friend. "Thank you for giving me the chance to challenge myself. From today on, we'll ride new journeys together." In that moment, she realized this motorcycle was no longer just a means of transportation. It was a story, a memory, a lesson in patience, and a symbol of revival. That nothing is ever truly too old or too lost if touched with passion and dedication. And dear friends, this journey is also a reflection of our own lives. Sometimes we face hardships that seem impossible to overcome, but with perseverance, belief, and resilience, the day will come when we too can enjoy the sweet reward of our efforts. This police 125cc is living proof of that. I feel truly grateful to have shared this story with all of you. Thank you for watching, for listening, and for staying with me from beginning to end. If you found this video meaningful, please don't forget to leave a like to support me and hit subscribe so you won't miss any of my upcoming projects. And I would love to hear your thoughts. How do you feel about today's restoration journey? What motorcycle would you like me to restore next? Or would you like to see me share a completely different kind of project, something tied to passion, memory, or even nostalgia? Every comment, every suggestion from you is a source of motivation for me to keep creating and sharing more heartfelt stories. Once again, thank you so much for being here. I'll see you in the next journey, where even more surprises and inspirations await. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss my next restoration journey. See you in the next video.